Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans, pro football fans in general around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, and look who I ran into here at where are we at the Press Pub on 5th Avenue in Grandview. I live in outside Hilliard. My man here lives east of Newark. Parts unknown.
Absolutely.
But look who I run
Keep
into.
it that way.
Look who I run into the Jake Ballard. Hey, Jake, welcome once again to the Tim May Show, my man.
Thanks for having me, Tim. What a lovely day out here in Grandview.
Absolutely. If we can keep the car traffic down, I think we'll have a nice, pleasant little conversation here. But,
absolutely.
man, I wanted to hit up with you because obviously you and I and Dane Sonsenbacher and our buddy Paul Moose Spahn played in a scramble the other day up at Bent Tree Golf Club up by Sunbury. But the point was, we were sitting there playing, and one of those many times we were waiting to hit our shots. You brought up an interesting subject with me, which I wanted to explore with you, which is dreaming. You still have dreams, unfulfilled dreams, about playing pro football and about playing football in general. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I wanted to get your take real quick on the phenomenon we just saw in the recent National Football League draft, where we saw a quarterback projected by quite a few, actually, experts to go in the first round earlier rather than later, plummet all the way to the 6th round. His name was Shedeur Sanders. Now, I'm asking you, you're to call you an expert on the draft, I think, might be underselling you because, number one, you didn't get drafted, but you have a Super Bowl ring because you showed that the doubters were wrong when it came to you, your future, your prowess, whatever words you want to throw in there. And I'm asking you, are the experts wrong about Shedeur Sanders? Why did he plummet to the 6th round, or the 5th round, taken by your beloved Cleveland Browns?
My beloved Browns.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert at any point in the draft, but I've watched and kept track of many years. And, I didn't watch a lot of Shedeur and play this year, but when he kept plummeting and he wasn't getting picked, I just started doing a little more research, and it looked like a lot of people were bringing up some red flag stuff on how he carried himself, how he interacted with his teammates, how he interacted with the opponents and different stadiums and coaches, and then all these stories start coming out about how bad his interviews were in person, and also, maybe his dad was a little too involved. And it sounds like a lot of teams just didn't want to deal with that mess or headache in the locker room, which could create a lot of drama. It's hard enough to win in the NFL, much less trying to, bend over backwards for a potential diva personality who hasn't done anything in the NFL yet.
Now, what's funny? That's easy for you to say. You know why? Because your quarterback on your Super Bowl winning football team, the New York Giants, was who?
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning, if I remember correctly, was drafted by the San Diego Chargers way back when. And right after the pick, said, we're not playing for the Chargers. And his superstar dad, Arch Manning, the original Archie Manning, was basically backing him up on that. And he ends up with the New York Giants, and ends up winning 2 Super Bowls with the New York Giants. My point is, so what's wrong with Deion Sanders saying the same thing?
Yeah, I guess it's a little different. Deion came out before the draft even happened that he wanted to have a big say in where his son played and where he was going to be. Archie never came out and said that. And they made it known that he'd love to not be in the same conference as his brother, and they put their foot down, and it worked out. It didn't work out for the Chargers as much, but it did work out for the Giants, and now a lot of people argue he's a Hall of Famer. I think he'll get it eventually, but I think it was just a little different. But there was definitely that draft day drama.
Yeah.
But then again, you also don't see somebody who's supposed to be a top 10 pick fall on hundreds of picks.
Yes. Yeah. Almost hundreds. Yeah. I think 100 and whatever the pick was. It was in the high 150 plus.
Right.
If I remember correctly. Point being, I guess is this: personality is one thing. Interviews are one thing, but if a guy shows you on the field he can take you to the promised land, you're probably going to draft him.
Oh, for sure. I think so, yeah.
And my problem all along with Shedeur Sanders wasn't his personality, because everybody's got different personalities. It was the fact that I mean, unlike a lot of people, I think he's got talent, but I don't think he has above average talent.
No.
And I think he's got toughness, as he showed in being sacked almost 100 times the last 2 seasons when he's playing for Colorado. But I don't see him as over and above like a Will Howard or those. I mean, you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Plus, Will Howard led his team to the national championship, yet Shedeur's finally was taken ahead of Will Howard.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'm not sure he was put down as much as a lot of people think he was. I think a lot of it was due to when you assessed a lot of things, plus his talent,
Right.
maybe it's not there from a first-round standpoint.
Yeah.
I know we're wasting all the time on this, but I just wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player, and I'm not going to root against the kid. And
Right.
hopefully he gets a chance to prove himself and work. And I just feel like a lot of people aren't going to take projects in the first round. I don't
Right.
think Shedeur is ready for the NFL day one. He needs some things and work on his tools and his trade and his craft, and maybe he can get there. But who's going to waste a first-round draft pick on a quarterback who they don't think is better than the ones they have on the team right now?
Correct. I mean, that's an old line. If a guy's not going to be a starter for you, if you don't take him in the first round or early second, you might as well wait to the 5th or 6th, because in your mind, he's not much better than the other guys on the same list.
Right.
So that's where it came down to. But of course, there are a lot of other things thrown into the mix, which I'm not even going to get into on this show. But I truly believe every National Football League team is striving to do one thing. That's build a team good enough to play in, not just play in, but win the Super Bowl. I think you agree with that to a certain extent, right?
I mean, that's the end goal. That's the goal for every team.
Yeah. Hey, what do you remember most? What would you be encouraging? The Buckeyes had 14 players drafted, basically tying the number they had many years ago, or several years ago. But what would you be encouraging these guys who went second round and on from the Buckeyes? I mean, when it comes to going into camp, what is the NFL looking for from this moment on from them until, let's say, the 1st of September?
I mean, they want to see that, A, you can learn the playbook quickly, and that you're a hard worker, and that you're coachable. Those are 3 big things. And then if you can do those things and also compete at a high level, things will fall into place and work out as it's supposed to. But if you're not picking up the playbook, or you're not putting in extra work, or you're not giving your all in practice to get better every day, you only get so many chances before they might write you off and put you in a box. So you just can't let that happen.
You came up, what was your rookie season?
2010.
2010. That was a lot of when things really started changing when it came to the rigors. Well, actually, it'd been changed before, but the rigors of preseason camp, right? I mean, is it that tough anymore to be able to practice every day?
Well, so
you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. So my first 2 years, we still had 2 days in the NFL. So that's not a thing anymore.
Right.
So we were.
That was when the transition was about to start.
Right.
Yeah.
And in college, we still had 2 days.
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore. So I mean, and I think, it's tougher for those fringe guys in the NFL to show what they can do if you're not getting 2 practices a day to really prove it. But you have a shortened timeline to make a name for yourself. But I do like that the fact they're trying to help these guys' body, but it also limits your snaps and your ability to showcase your skills.
Yeah, and especially for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, like Ryan Day was talking about this in a press conference the other day, and he's exactly right. I mean, if you're not the starter and or the backup, even on a college football team, your shots at what I call quality reps, even in practice, with the better team going against the better team, are limited, if not nil, right? I mean,
it's also limited the fact that if you're the third on the depth chart, well, you're not getting snaps with the first and second team.
Right.
You're snaps with the third and fourth team. So your talent level you're working with is also lower. I mean, look at the Browns. The Browns QB room, not even counting the guy who's been hurt the last couple of years. I mean, you got Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, now Shedeur. So they have 4 guys, and no NFL team carries 4 quarterbacks. Most teams don't carry 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be limited reps, and one of those guys is going to go.
Yeah.
And historically, third-round picks usually have at least a year or 2 locked in. So, now you're looking at, well, is Joe going to be Flacco still be able to play at a high level, which he seemed like he still could last year.
Yeah.
His age is obviously up there. So, I mean, I think it's really looking at Kenny Pickett or Shedeur. And, Shedeur could start the season on the practice squad potentially, unless he really get some opportunities to show greatness if that is indeed him.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Gabriel. I know everybody likes to discount Dylan Gabriel because he's about this tall. The guy was a Heisman finalist.
Yeah.
They went undefeated through the regular season. I'm talking about Oregon, and won the Big Ten championship.
Yep.
He left college, I think tied or right at the number of most touchdown passes ever thrown by a college big time quarterback. He's no slouch. If he was 2 inches taller, you'd be going, wow, they got a hell of a deal there. But I mean, I think right away, Shedeur and Dylan are going to be matched against each other. Which one delivers? Which one? Go ahead. I mean, which one can deliver both physically and mentally?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Dylan's played a lot of ball for UCF and played at Oklahoma. And played at Oregon, so he's played all the big guys, and he embarrassed Ohio State in the middle of the season. We got our revenge game at him, but he still was hard to contain. But I mean, they made him look very
pedestrian.
Yes.
The second time.
Yeah, very mortal the second time.
They made him look 5'11", whatever, right? But the bottom line was, they got after that offensive line. That's a story for another day. But, actually, it's been told about 1 million times by now, right?
Right.
Because they was on their way to their national championship. Hey, I wanted to ask you one other thing before we move into the main reason I coerced you here is in preseason camp. Because you were around this, you were a walk-up, you were a free agent signing, same thing, right?
It feels the same way.
Yeah. How much of a look do you get? I mean, what you call a true. See, like in college football, if you're recruited and you sign a scholarship, and now everybody's going to be on scholarship,
right.
but before, the guy who recruited you, the people who signed off on you, it behooved them to push your fortunes, meaning give you maybe the extra benefit of the doubt. I'm not talking about you personally, but you in general, because they wasted a lot of money, time, and effort to get you there.
Right.
The NFL draft, to me, smacks of being the same thing, although we've seen even former Buckeyes cut who were drafted, who didn't quite fit the bill. But I guess, how many chances do you really get as a lower draft pick or a free agent to really prove yourself? We already talked a while ago about the restrictions in terms of just pure football, but do you feel like you're sort of being brought in to help pad the practice squad as preseason camp goes through?
I mean, and this is where my agent did a great job, but if you're an undrafted guy or a low pick, I mean, they're just wanting bodies, and they might be throwing a flyer at you because they've seen maybe flashes of what you can do, but your snaps will be limited. Your interactions with coaches and everything else will be limited. You really have everything going against you, but you have nothing to lose. So where I was at with the Giants, they didn't have that many good tight ends, and Kevin Boss was hurt in training camp my sophomore year, and so was Travis Beckham. So I was number 2, 3 tight end coming out as an undrafted free agent, getting all these reps.
Yeah.
And what happened to me, I guess what Ohio State blocked really well. Well, that transition to the NFL, and I was the best blocker on the team. And then I was starting to get more reps with the number 1 team just because Boss was injured, Travis Beckham was injured, and I took advantage of the situation. But if Boss wasn't hurt, if Travis Beckham wasn't hurt, I would have been the 4th or 5th tight end. Yeah. And my reps would have been extremely limited. So I took advantage of the situation. But that's how these guys getting drafted late will. Well, that's the situation they will have. They're going to get to mini camps and OTAs, and they have to grind and show the coaches and take every opportunity to get better. That's why I think just being coachable, learning the playbook, and when you're training hard, you're not goofing off. And those are the things that don't take, any effort to try to stay, be a good kid, be coachable. Then the effort comes in your training, and you're on the field and doing the right things. And if you make a mistake, you can't keep making that same mistake.
A free agent signee from Ohio State I'm very curious to watch is Seth McLaughlin, the center, who, why he didn't get drafted is still beyond me. I know he's come back from the Achilles tear. He's doing pretty well, by the way. And of course, he's not 100%. You aren't 100% with those things.
Bigger guys, probably not a year, about a year.
For a year. The point is, he signed with the Bengals. He won the Remington Award.
Right.
He was considered the best center in the nation. He didn't even play the last 2 games of the regular season.
Right.
My point to you is, what is your thought just on him in particular? Because he's one of my favorites, and he transferred from Alabama, got booed out of Alabama for the most part after the Rose Bowl, which, by the way, if you ever go back and, I mean, yeah, he had a couple of bad snaps in that game, ladies and gentlemen, but on the last play of the game, that was not a bad snap. It was a slightly low snap, but it was a bad play call. But I digress, right? My point is, I find him intriguing because I think I said on Bo Bishop's radio show before the week of the draft, I thought if he gets drafted or at least gets with a team, he could be in the NFL for 10 or 12 years if he stays healthy. I mean, that's with everybody, but I think he has that kind of ability. What's your take on that?
No, I agree. The thing that's going to go against Seth is the injury. You know, so the coaches are all about what can you do for me now, right? So he's going to go in there and he's going to have to rehab as hard as he can, train as hard as he can, and he's not going to be able to show the coaches what he can do on the field until he's healthy. So he's behind the 8 ball. And, you know, in some situations, it's just going to be tough. He might get cut just because he's not ready to go yet, you know, and it might be a hard road for him. But if he can show flashes and get enough confidence from the organization, the front office, and the coaches, they might keep him around until he's healthy.
Yeah.
And then once he gets shots, he'll be maybe slowly introduced to, you know, snaps at practice, but it'll probably be, you know, going to not in the number 1 offense. It'll be going against the defense as a scout team, and he's just going to have to. He's just going to have to do it. It's going to be a hard road.
But they signed him knowing what his situation was. Number 2, we're talking about the same organization that drafted a first-round quarterback and had him sit the entire year. You remember way back when?
Right.
What was that kid's name from USC? I can't remember. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So they at least have a history of showing a patience when it comes to someone who either needs to learn the game and or needs rehab for want of another term, right? So I think his agent might have helped him in that situation, much like yours did.
Oh, for sure. And they also, front office will look at him like this is a low-value guy. It's not a lot of money to keep him.
Correct.
So it's a high-value guy based on the fact they're not paying him much. So, like, they think he can turn into a starter at one point. They might keep him around as long as they have a spot for him to do so.
All right, let's move into the REM sleep dream phase, dream sequence of this. I want to ask, because you brought up something that's very curious to me. There's a syndrome, a dream syndrome, may not be the right term, but just a dream pattern that most people have where, you know, with me it's almost always golf, where I'm trying to tee off on a certain hole and people keep walking in front of me, or I'm restricted on my backswing, I keep moving the tee around, and I finally get lined up, but I never get to take the shot, and I wake up. You have this when it comes to football. Can you explain to folks what you and I were talking about on that tee box as we were waiting to hit towering drives, or at least you were?
So I keep having similar dreams that all have to do with football, and it's always the same dream but different scenarios, and it's either at Ohio State or the Giants or the Patriots or the Cardinals. And it's funny too, even Ohio State with the new coaching staff like Coach Day, which I've never played for, and I'm always getting ready for either a game or a practice.
Wait a minute, but it specifically is a team each time.
It is a team.
Not just a general.
It's not
green and gold.
Yeah, I'm not just getting ready to play for a random team. It's somewhere I played, and I'm always getting ready for a game or practice. And I'm just continuing to get ready at a slow pace, and everybody's getting ready to go to practice or the game, and I'm still getting ready, whether I'm taping my ankles or just getting dressed for the game or getting warmed up, but I never end up making it to the game or to practice. And, you know, sometimes I'll be going through the meetings, you know, like a normal day, and then it's time to get ready, and I feel like I'm getting ready for years, and then everything just passes me by, and then I'll wake up. So the anxiety about, I'll wake up like I'm late to practice or late to a game, and it just never happens. I never get to that finish line in that dream.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who not only played in, but was on a winning team, a team that won the Super Bowl. You also got hurt in that game.
Yep.
A knee injury. Golly, man, speaking of dreams, I still see you trying to run up and down the sideline to prove you could go back in. That might have been your major undoing there, trying to go back in on a flat tire.
Right.
And but obviously your career was never the same after that. You did get the ring. Number one, how satisfying was that to know your football career was not to no avail?
Yeah.
That's a double negative, which made a positive.
You know, looking back, it could have been worse. Like we could have lost the game and not become a Super Bowl champion.
Right.
But
that would be about the only thing that would make it worse.
That's the only thing that would have made it worse.
Yeah.
But you always think about what could have happened if I didn't get hurt. You know, if I could have kept playing, signed with different teams, signed a big contract with New York. You know, how long would I have lasted? What would I have done? And I think those are the little memories or feelings that are pushing through into my dreams.
Yeah.
Like I have a career in the NFL that I didn't finish the way I wanted to.
Yeah. And Jake, this is what people don't understand. Football is not like golf. Oh yeah, there's a profound statement. You're welcome. My point is, I've never been a pro golfer, as you know. Notice I never will be. But my point is, I can go play golf and have fun at it anytime I want. You know, whether I'm shooting an 85 or 150. I will never get close to my age like our buddy Moose did.
Right.
Does, and my buddy Tom Blattler out in Las Vegas shot his age 72 the other day, which I think, I'd like to get a recount on that if you're watching, Tom, but or maybe an audit. But the point is, football. I remember Obie Stillwell was the first guy to ever say this. You remember Obie Stillwell or no Obie Stillwell? Yep. But the point was, as he said, football is the one sport above any other of where somebody else tells you you're through. Meaning, usually, unless you're just pure lucky, somebody else.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
No. Yes, ends it for you.
Yep.
And my point is, you may not be ready to end it, right? Or injury comes along, and it's God speaking to you, right? But the point is, someone else, some other factor ended your career without you wanting to give it up yet, and that's tough for almost everybody who goes through it.
Yeah, well, extremely hard, especially if you've been playing a sport since you were little, and you just always have that next season, next off season, training, next training camp, and then when it's done, it's done. I mean, I swear for 8 years after I retired, I'd still get that sick feeling in my stomach that training camp was coming. I mean, it really is just the last couple of years that I have not got it. But every time, like the end of July, I just would get sick and be like, oh, here we go. I'll be locked down for a month. And, you're battling for livelihoods. You're battling for jobs and careers.
Yeah, paydays, basically.
Yep.
The sick feeling was what? Knowing competition was on its way. You had to be on your... you had to be at your best. I mean, what brought along that?
I think a little bit of everything, just the pressure and what was riding on it, and just the intensity of you're in football all day long, and you're in it for a month. So you're waking up at 6, you're going to bed at 9 or 10, maybe late. I mean, not 9 or 10. You're getting to your dorm room and training camp at 10. Maybe get to bed at 11. You're up the next day, and it's a physical grind. I'd argue it's a bigger mental grind.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're also, especially for these guys, these Buckeyes who are going to these new camps, they're lucky. They're going to have mini camp with the team. They're going to have OTAs, and they're going to have fall, mini camp, then fall camp.
Yeah.
To continue to learn the plays and learn the playbook as much as you can. But for me,
and always under scrutiny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And like I said, you just got to make sure you don't keep making the same mistakes. You can make mistakes, but don't make it again. But you're getting a whole new world of football thrown at you when you've just been in one system for 4 years or however many years. So it's just flipping the page, and nothing you did before matters. And those higher draft pick guys, they have a little more leeway to make mistakes because, like Tim said earlier, the higher the draft pick, the more money's on the line, the more the front office of that team's on the line, the coaches are on the line, so
careers.
There's more politics involved, right? So the guys who are drafted higher will be on the team longer. Rarely do you see a guy who's drafted in the 4th or 5th round that's not at least guaranteed 1 year on that team.
Yeah, crazy. It's funny. in another light too about preseason camp too. Bill Belichick, I remember he talked to the Ohio State football coaches clinic several years ago. I think Urban brought him in, and he made a good point too about football training, NFL training camp. He goes, maybe the hardest thing to do is to have 80 guys running around out there, all busting their butt for the good of the team, when in fact they all know, and all the coaches know, cut down is coming.
Right.
And you're going to end up with what, 53?
Active,
yeah.
And then what, the 10 on the practice squad,
yeah.
12? It used to be only 3
yes.
or 4.
Yeah. And that's the point is, like, how do you get this camaraderie among all these players when each one of them's trying to still, take the other guy's job?
Right.
I mean, it is an interesting...
it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think coaches can lean on the fact that we've been bred like that.
Yes.
Our whole life.
I think they do lean on it.
And the young guys just think it's another day. They know getting cut's a potential part of it, but they're gonna just put their mind that I'm gonna be on this team this year.
Yeah.
And then when they're cut, that's when the wheels kind of fall off. All right, what do I do now? Do I keep training, right? I keep training, see if I get re-signed. Maybe I re-sign, then I bounce around. If I don't get re-signed, how many years do I keep trying to train to make my dream come true? And it's a hard game. I saw guys who got cut out of their first camp who had kept training for years and never signed anywhere else. And 5, 6 years down the road and they're still training, and you're like, hey, it's not happening. They're bringing a new group of young guys in every year.
Yeah.
Why? They're not going to look at your film from 6 years ago in college to see if there's anybody to sign.
Yeah. It reminds me of a book I read a long time ago called Meat on the Hoof. And it was about Texas. It was a fictional thing about University of Texas football and how there's always, every year there's a new class coming in.
Right.
And like we were talking about a while ago, they've been recruited. A lot of time, sweat, and effort's been put into recruiting them. And the whole idea is they're going to be better than you.
Right.
The next class and stuff. And wow, what a cutthroat business. What a beautiful sport. But what a cutthroat business when you get right down to it, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
Especially college and NFL. They're going to try and bring somebody in to beat everybody on their roster right now.
Yeah.
They're bringing a better player. Whoever's the better player is going to play.
Last thing in that regard. Name, image, and likeness, money, contracts, deals in college football now. They weren't around when you were around.
Yeah.
There was Tapgate,
right? Yeah.
Which, ladies and gentlemen, paled in comparison.
Right.
Wouldn't even put the Richter scale on alert. But the bottom line is, I want to ask you: is your beloved sport, college football, your alum of Ohio State University, where you put blood, sweat, and tears into the game forever and stuff, are you, in a nutshell, because this could be a whole nother podcast, which we'll do later maybe, but are you concerned about the fact, about what's going on in major college sports now, especially football and basketball? I'm talking about being able to openly go out openly and in some form or fashion offer players contracts based on their ability, just like they do in the National Football League to a certain extent.
Right.
And then some guy, and you and I are both laughing about this because we're not going to be specific about it, but about, let's say, a defensive back showing up at your school, really wants to play at your school, but the other school is offering him 4 times what your school is,
right.
Meaning the NIL deal at the other
right.
school. And that's got to bother you a little bit, doesn't it, as much as that car alarm going off over there?
I feel like a lot of non players have different opinions of what's going on. I'm not going to say this is terrible for the sport. I think kids should get paid, but I also think the kids that should get paid are the ones who've proven it on the field, but also, you also have to have the ability to recruit. So that's what it's turned into, pulling kids out of high school and promising them, giving them salaries. But I think something will need to change, and I think we're heading that direction now with the schools. They're going to be paying the players. I think it's going to be just a mini NFL. There's going to need to be a salary cap set on what teams can play, and there's going to need to be an entire front office to handle this, not just, the coaches shouldn't be handling it. They should be recruiting and coaching.
Yeah.
But it just is what it is. That's where we're at, and it's going to be a mini farm league. I mean, it's always been a farm league, but now it's just the NFL light.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I just saw Texas is going to probably spend 45 million this year on their roster. So almost 2 times what Ohio State paid their players last year.
I wonder if all these commentators, analysts, and everybody are going to be throwing that number out there. You know what I'm talking about?
I would say ESPN is not going to bring that up much for Texas.
And I would also hasten, before we end this, to add that I'm pretty sure Ohio State did not have the highest payroll last year.
They did not.
In NIL. It was just the only one that was thrown out there, and it was thrown out there by Ross Bjork, the athletic director. Personally, being in the media, I appreciate somebody putting some kind of number to the situation. But then the problem in college football has always been, college sports has been, you don't know what the other guy's number is.
Right. Yep.
Now, we're moving maybe faster than you think toward that day when you'll have to be revealing what you're paying players, what they're getting out of the NIL. You know what they're going to be getting out of the revenue sharing situation. But then on top of that, NIL's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it'll be over on top of that. Hey, last thing I want to ask you before we're done. What was your longest drive the other day? And say it without it looking like you're bragging. I'm talking about it Bentry, ladies and gentlemen. And this drive, if I remember correctly, was into the wind and ended up being hole high to the right. But we ended up parring the hole because it was just off in the right rough and nobody could hit a chip shot.
No, we got a birdie.
Yeah, we did get a birdie.
It felt like it felt like a par.
It felt like a bogey because it felt like a par because
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, I think it was 335. So we were hole high.
Into the wind. The wind was blowing about 15 to 18 miles an hour, ladies and gentlemen. It has always been my desire, in fact, my recurring dream of getting this man to the tee on time to take part in a long driving competition, professional long driving competition. Now that he's a new father with responsibilities, that dream may never happen. But Jake, don't you think you can compete?
I think probably 8 years ago, I think I competed. Now it's getting
You don't think you can still twist it?
I don't know. It's that bad. My bad knees, my plant leg, and it's a lot of herky jerky on it. So I don't know if I got the stamina to do it anymore.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen, taking himself out of it by citing an old football injury. We'll see where that goes. But man, Jake, thank you very much again for joining the Tim May Show, my man. It's always a pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, we'll see you then.